Здравствуйте, Christ Church of the Valley. My name is Vladimir, and I am a shoebox recipient from Kiev, Ukraine. I received one of these beautiful and colorful shoeboxes from Samaritan's Purse, Operation Christmas Child, when I was only 9 years old. And what a blessing this gift was, not only for myself, but also for the whole family. And for me, it was extra special because this was my first Christmas gift ever. And the gospel came with it, but it wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the wonderful, hardworking people like you. And speaking of wonderful, hardworking people, I hear that you've been faithfully packing hundreds of shoeboxes each year. And I want to say a huge thank you to your project leaders, Chris and Cindy Ziura, for all the hard work that they've put in over the years. And let me tell you, your hard work does not go unnoticed. And so today I would just like to share my testimony with you in hopes that perhaps it will encourage you to continue doing all the good work that you've already been doing. So I come from a family of 9 children. My father was an underground minister in Kiev, Ukraine. My father risked his life preaching the gospel on the streets of Kiev at the time when it wasn't popular or allowed. And because my father was a believer living in a communist country, he was not able to advance in the society. He was hindered. And so my father had to settle for low-paying jobs. And every time he was captured and written up, it greatly affected his pay even more. It got to the point to where we didn't have enough shoes for everybody in the family, so we had to take turns to go outside to play. I would put my shoes on, I would play with my friends, and then I would come back and give my pair to my brother, and he would do the same. But it's not the only thing we had to share. We also had to share our toothbrushes. So I would brush my teeth and take the toothbrush, give it to my mom, and my mom would wash it with hot water and soap, and then she would pass it on to somebody else in line. And we didn't have access to a lot of toys, especially new toys. But it didn't stop us from having fun. We would go outside, we'd find Coca-Cola caps, and we would flip them, drill a little hole through the middle, put a little match or a stick through the hole, and find some strings, and we would make yo-yos out of Coca-Cola caps. And we would also play with our shoes, pretending they were cars, boats, airplanes. And another thing we did, we would go outside, we'd find pieces of paper, and we would draw roads on one piece of paper. And another piece of paper, we would draw cars, boats, airplanes that were proportional to the roads and the world that we created on another piece of paper. And so we would cut out those boats and cars, and we would just drive on top of the roads, and we'd create little lakes, and it was a lot of fun. It's something I still do with my kids. And as for food, we pretty much grew up on rice and potatoes, which I often jokingly say that we were vegetarians and we didn't even know it. And we grew up in a tiny 3-bedroom apartment with barely any heating, cooling. We didn't have a washer and a dryer, so my mom, she had to do all the laundry by hand. And because of the amount of laundry that my mom had to do, her skin would often crack and bleed. And mom would stay up all night, and she would make socks and underwear for us out of old clothes or donated material. So my mom was also very creative and very resourceful, but we grew up very poor on the inside of the apartment walls, and we were heavily persecuted on the outside. But in the middle of all that, we were invited to come to a Christmas celebration. And this was in the middle of cold Ukrainian winter. We had to hop on the bus and then on the tram just to get to this place. We were lightly dressed because we couldn't afford winter clothes. And we had to walk in the snow for a while, so my socks were all soaked. But it didn't matter because we were so excited to finally get to this place. And when we pulled up to this place, I was walking in at the same time with the girl that I recognized from my class. And I was very surprised to see this girl there because I knew for a fact that this girl was not a believer. And I was very surprised to see this girl there because I assumed that this event was only for Christians. But to my surprise, this place was filled with all kinds of people from all walks of life. And when we walked into this place, it's like we transitioned from this black and white Ukrainian winter to a colorful room of joy and laughter. There was so much happy music, beautiful, welcoming smiles. But most importantly, they presented the gospel to us in so many different and unique ways through singing, dancing, cartoons, movies, animations, flannel boards. It's like the gospel came alive. And even if they stopped at that, it would have been enough because it was like a big birthday party for everyone. But then they brought out these beautiful and colorful shoeboxes. And when I open my shoebox, it's like everything that I imagined playing with growing up. It's like it manifested in real life. I had my own yo-yo. I didn't have to make yo-yos out of Coca-Cola caps anymore. I had my own toothbrush. I didn't have to share a toothbrush with anybody anymore. I had my own Hot Wheel cars. I didn't have to play with my shoes pretending they were cars. I had my own school supplies. And growing up, we couldn't afford school supplies. most of the time I went to school without any school supplies. And my teacher, she would ridicule me in front of the class for not having school supplies, and she would make me walk around and ask for a pen and paper. She would make an example out of me. But I finally had my own school supplies. And not only that, but my school supplies were colorful and beautiful. No one in the neighborhood had anything like what I had. And I also had this bar of soap, which was like the whitest white I've ever seen. It was so squeaky clean, so slick, so smooth. It had a print of the dove on top. It was like the Holy Spirit in a box, because it sanctified my whole box for me. And I had all kinds of things that over the years, you forget the little details, but my most favorite item out of everything that I received, it was this dental floss. And the reason why it was so memorable for me is because I licked it thinking it was candy, and I remember thinking, that's some crazy candy you guys have in America. My whole mouth was so numb from all the mint. And there was a guy in the room who was observing me from the distance, and he felt sorry for me, so he came over. He tried to explain to me in his broken Russian that this is not what you think it is. And he tried to explain to me that he kind of went like this, which what I got out of it is that this is like a toothbrush substitute, which confused me even more. I remember thinking, okay, well, okay, I can see a toothbrush being effective, but how's this fancy string? How is this supposed to brush your teeth? And it wasn't until many years later, when we finally moved to the United States, when we were at our first dentist appointment, that's when I found out what it was really for. And let's just say I felt pretty silly. So definitely throw one of these things in, just to confuse a child or two. It's good for them. It builds character. But most importantly, I felt loved. And I always say that God is love. When you show love to people, you show God to people. When people experience love, they experience God. And once you experience that God's unconditional love, you will not walk away unchanged. And that's what you get to be a part of when you pack a shoebox with Samaritan's Purse, Operation Christmas Child. And I'm just so honored and blessed to serve alongside of you. May God bless you.